The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma. In September 2024, the consumer price index increased by 0.3% compared to the previous month, with the annual inflation rate amounted to 0.6%, according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia. With regard to the annual core inflation, the prices increased by around 1%, while the annual core inflation without tobacco amounted to 0.8%. The gross internal debt of Georgia amounted to $24.6 billion, which is equal to 69 billion 100 million Georgian lari as of June 30th, 2024. It stood at around 78% of last 4 quarters GDP. During the second quarter of 2024, the gross external debt of Georgia increased by $32.2 million. Out of that, $277 million increase was due to transactions, while exchange rate price and other changes led to the decrease by 172, 33 and 39 million US dollars respectively. In 2025, the government plans to increase the debt by 2 billion Georgian lari. The estimated real gross domestic product growth rate amounted to 12% for August compared to previous year, and the average real GDP growth for January-August 2024 equaled 10%. In August 2024, compared to the same period of the previous year, the estimated real growth in following activities contributed significantly: professional, scientific, technical activities, information and communication, construction, financial and insurance activities, real estate activities, trade. Decline was registered only in energy industry. Georgian Infrastructure Minister Irakli Karsaladze on Friday said the first 4-kilometer section of the 35-kilometer Kakheti Highway, a project stretching from the capital of Tbilisi to the central part of the eastern Kakheti region, had become operational. The highway is divided into 2 sections: 35-kilometer Tbilisi-Sagarejo and 16.6-kilometer Bakuris-Tsikhe-Tsnori roads. The former is itself composed of 3 sections: the Vaziani Bypass Road, Vaziani-Sagarejo section, and Sagarejo Bypass Road, with construction underway on all 3 while being a part of a main highway connecting Tbilisi with Kakheti. The Tbilisi-Sagarejo Road also functions as a transit corridor, providing connection to the northwestern part of Azerbaijan. The existing road passes through densely populated villages and cities of Vaziani, Sartichala, Ninotsminda, and Sagarejo. According to the draft state budget 2025, 150 million Georgian lari will be diverted for the Anaklia port project, mainly to develop its infrastructure. The allocation follows the decision of the government of Georgia in late August to sign an agreement with the Belgian company Yandenol on the construction of marine infrastructure within the framework of the Anaklia Deep Sea project. 2025 state budget allocates also 237 million Georgian lari to expand Kutaisi International Airport and 340 million Georgian lari for the new Vaziani Airport. The draft budget shows that the period encompasses 2024-2027 for Kutaisi International Airport and by 2028 for the new Vaziani Airport. First batch of 20 million lari will be allocated in 2025 for the preparation of works. Next year's annual batches will equal 100 million Georgian lari.
This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kwanjilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up business and economics week for you. On September 3rd, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe issued a written declaration signed by PACE members expressing alarm at the ruling party's apparent preparations to steal the 26 October parliamentary elections. The declaration states there are alarming reports coming from Georgia which seem to indicate that the ruling party is preparing to steal the upcoming parliamentary elections. The declaration points at concrete reports that substantiate these apprehensions, such as a massive intimidation campaign against opposition candidates and their supporters whose premises are looted and whose families are threatened with apparent impunity. The PACE members also note that there have also been physical attacks against opposition activists. The signatories stress that the voters are subjected to intimidation by disseminating false information, putting into question the secrecy of the vote. The government will know how you voted and there will be consequences, PACE declaration reads. The declaration also notes that many national election observation groups are being prevented from doing their jobs by abusing anti-corruption legislation even before the so-called foreign agents law enters into force. The Central Election Commission, the PACE signatories note, has recently been brought under the control of the ruling party, noting that such actions have created a pre-electoral environment in which it is very difficult to hold free and fair elections. The declaration further stresses that in order to achieve international recognition of the election result, the authorities should stop acting in an anti-democratic way and reverse their course. The declaration stresses the crucial role of the international observers, including from PACE, to allow the people of Georgia to determine their future freely. In order to equip citizens with knowledge and information on political parties' programs and help voters explore which political party is closest to their views, Election Compass Georgia 2024 was designed and implemented. Election Compass Georgia is a collaborative effort of Georgian and international institutions and countries' development partner organizations. Here are some main voices from the presentation.
It's really a pleasure to be here today with my colleagues from Germany, Ambassador Fischer, and from the EU, Ambassador Herzinski. We're here to launch Election Compass 24. And I want to say a little bit about what this tool does, because in an election campaign season, there's a lot of talk about political parties and political candidates, but the most important person in elections are the voter. The voter is the most important person in the Georgian elections coming up. And the Georgian public has a right to know what the parties who they're voting for represent and what policies they're voting for. And really, it is a sincere hope of the United States, and it's the reason why we're collaborating with Germany and the EU on this project, to ensure that Georgian voters get out, vote, that they know their vote is secret, that they know the election is fair, and that they know that the parties that they are voting for represent what they, the Georgian voters, want. So it's really a pleasure to launch this tool. I hope Georgians use it, and I hope Georgians take a good hard look at whoever they vote for and ensure that that vote is putting someone into office who will reflect the will and the desire of the Georgian people.
Today we're launching the Election Compass for Georgia. It's a tool that we're very familiar with in Germany. There we call it Wahlomat. At the last national election in Germany, 20 million people used it. You just type in what your interests are, what your political preferences are, and then it will indicate to you the position of the political parties. So I think it's very important to have such a tool that every citizen can inform themselves before they go to the election. And in a democracy, it is important that every citizen goes to the election and is well informed and makes a choice about their own future. It's a superpower that the citizens of a country have in their hands. So I'm delighted to be part of this with our Georgian friends before their election. The president of Georgia was a very welcome visitor in Germany. We're happy that she took the time to speak to the president of Germany about important issues. And those are all the details that I know about her visit. To join the European Union is a voluntary thing. No one is forced to join the European Union. No one must join the European Union. Georgia applied to the European Union, and you are very welcome to join. If you turn away, then you won't be a member.
Gamarjoba, today we are participating in the launch of so-called Electoral Compass. This is a non-partisan web-based tool developed by several Georgian civil society organizations with the support of international partners in order to help Georgian voters to make an informed choice what party to support during the upcoming elections. I'm really happy that as European Union we have been supporting this project, again, non-partisan web-based tool to help to understand better what party stands for what issues. I once again call on all Georgians to go and vote. Upcoming elections will be absolutely essential in determining the future of your country. It is for you, Georgian voters, to decide what party you will support. But it is for me to tell you, please go and vote. Your vote really, really matters. Action is absolutely what is necessary. I sincerely hope that the turnout during the upcoming elections on the 26th of October will be historic high, and you collectively will decide the future of your country. European Union is not part of the electoral process in Georgia. We are not running to be elected or re-elected. These are political parties, Georgian political parties that are competing with each other, and it will be for them to decide based on the outcome of the elections what government will be formed. On my side, as representative of the European Union in Georgia, let me once again call on all Georgians to go and vote. This is your constitutional right, but this is also your civic duty. Please go and vote. Your vote really matters. You will decide what country Georgia will be your future. The future of Sakartvelo is in your hands. With a breaking heart, I have to again tell you that 27 European leaders have decided in June, so several months ago, to stop Georgia's EU accession process in reaction to several difficult and troublesome developments that have happened here. I sincerely hope that after the elections, whoever will win the elections, we will very swiftly work together with the newly elected government of Georgia in order to restart Georgia's accession process. Unfortunately, in the last several months, a lot of time has been wasted. The accession process has been stopped. This is happening in the context of other countries, including Ukraine and Moldova, going fast forward on the EU integration path. We really need to catch up, and everything depends on the vote on the 26th of October. So again, I urge every Georgian citizen eligible to vote to exercise his or her right to go and vote. And as European Union, we have made crystal clear we are ready to work with any government of Georgia to be elected after the 26th of October elections. On our side, we have made it loud and clear, our doors are open for Georgia. We are waiting for you. Let's not waste any one more minute. Let's restart Georgia's path towards EU membership. The choice is in the hands of Georgian people. It is for the Georgian people to decide what government they want to have. in case this government will be interested in EU's integration process of Georgia, on our side, we are ready to work with any government democratically elected by the Georgian people on the 26th of October. Since you asked me about the recent electoral announcements of the ruling party, let me tell you and all the viewers loud and clear that European Union is based on certain values. Those values are non-negotiable. Those values are enshrined in treaties. This is freedom, democracy, rule of law, rights of minorities, and we sincerely hope that during the elections on the 26th of October, Georgian people will elect a new government that would stick to those norms. And let me say very openly, if Georgia will become one-party state, if Georgia will become a country in which political opposition is banned, if Georgia will become a place where civil society needs to go abroad to operate, if basic human rights, including rights of minorities, are not protected, then Georgia will not become a member of the European Union, neither today, nor tomorrow, nor the day after tomorrow. These are non-negotiable principles that every current member state of the European Union and every future member of the European Union needs to strictly observe. We sincerely hope that the upcoming elections will be free and fair, that they will be competitive, inclusive, transparent, that they will be held up to the highest international and European standards, and I sincerely hope that this will be the case. However, in case they will be not held up to the best international standards, and this is what will be the opinion of international observers, local observers, we will be waiting for the assessment from OSCE ODIHR, then of course we will be ready to respond to any developments, including the worst case scenario of electoral violence and the possibility of rigging of the elections. This is what we have experienced in case of Belarus, and I sincerely hope that we will never experience this in case of Georgia. On the 26th of October, Georgians will have a possibility to express their opinion. I sincerely hope that the turnout will be really high, that people will go and vote, because yes, I agree, this will be historic elections that will decide on the future of Georgia. Georgian government has invited international long-term observation mission. This mission has already arrived. This mission is composed of observers coming from all OSCE member states, including all 27 EU member states. This is the international standard setting when it comes to electoral observation. We will be waiting for the assessment of OSCE ODIHR electoral mission, and they will tell us if the elections were free and fair. We sincerely hope that this will be the case. I have been living in Georgia for the last 2 years. Like many foreigners, I fall in love with Georgia. This is a great country, a country that is rightfully proud of its traditions, of its strive for freedom, a country famous of its hospitality and tolerance. I would simply say, let Georgia be Georgia. Please go and vote and choose the future that you want. The choice is yours, and we as the European Union will respect whatever choice in a democratic way will be made by Georgian people.
A rapid expansion in services coupled with higher domestic consumption has accelerated Georgia's economic growth in 2024, according to a new Asian Development Bank report. The Asian Development Outlook, September 2024, forecasts Georgia's gross domestic product to grow by 7%, a notable increase from the earlier projection of 5% growth made in April 2024. The outlook for 2025 remains unchanged, with an anticipated growth of 5.5%. The checkpoint sat down with Lilia Alexanian, an economist at ADB's Central and West Asia Department, for more in-depth insights. Lilia, thank you for your time and thank you for taking our questions. Lilia, ADB has raised to 2024 growth forecast for Georgia. What is the logic behind this decision?
Thank you very much for the invitation. So as you mentioned, last week we released our flagship report, Asian Development Outlook, and we revised up 2024 growth forecast for Georgia. So now we expect growth to reach 7.0% instead of 5.5% that we were expecting earlier this year. So the main reason behind this is that economic activity has been quite strong in the first half of the year, exceeding expectations, not only for ADB, but also other partners were not expecting this strong growth for Georgia. So we saw GDP growth reaching 9.0% in the first half of 2024 compared to 8.2% last year during the same period. So these are quite good signals of strong economic growth for this year. Although we expect that in the second half of the year, so the growth will slightly moderate, so will be lower compared to the first half of the year, but overall annual growth will remain quite robust. And this robust, strong economic growth was mainly driven, as you know, by domestic demand, consumption, mostly in a low inflationary environment, increased bank lending, but also raising wages. So purchasing power of the population increased. So consumption has been driving growth in the first half of the year. And that is also reflected what we see in the services growth. It reached 11.3% growth in the first half of the year. So the main logic behind is very strong domestic demand that we observed in the first half of the year, and that was the main reason we revised up our forecast for this year.
Lilia, what do you see? What trend do you see in remittances to Georgia? What weight does it have in economic growth of Georgia? You mainly mentioned the domestic demand, but what about the remittances?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because as you know, in the past few years, especially last year, economic growth was fueled, especially private consumption was fueled by strong money transfers from foreign countries, mostly from bringing for migrant inflows and migrant transfers. So the difficult part is that the definition, we call it remittances. So it's not really remittances. So it's a broad concept of money transfer, which means migrant inflows coming to Georgia. They bring money with them. So it fuels private consumption. It fuels domestic demand. So that was one of the main drivers in the past year. What we see now is these huge inflows of money transfers is normalizing. So this was an exceptional spike. We correlated with the high inflow of migrants into Georgia, but then we see this normalization. But we also see, and that's based on the central bank data, that the source of money transfers is diversifying. So we see more and more money transfer from other countries than Russia. So it's a kind of interesting development, because the landscape of money transfers is changing, and also some migrants who migrated to Russia, they are now changing their status, so becoming residents. So it's difficult to call it remittances when the person is residing in the country. So all these changes is making quite difficult to monitor the situation, but what we are very expecting and what's happening is normalization of these high inflows.
In general, how sustainable is Georgia's economic growth? Because you remember how after COVID and also when the war started, these projections were quite hard to make, right? Almost all the development partners of Georgia were projecting that this war would have almost a devastating impact on Georgia's economy, while everything turned like upside down, right? It was vice versa. These effects, migration effects or whatever effects, working as a booster for Georgia's economic growth, they were also projected that they would fade away quite sooner, right? But you also mentioned that this impact is still there, and Georgia has high economic growth. So how sustainable is that growth? What is ADB's finding in that direction?
You're right. In the last 3 years, if we look at the average growth of the last 3 years in Georgia, that was it reached 9.7%. This is one of the highest rates in the Caucasus Central Asia region. And we, again, as I mentioned, we expect that growth will remain robust this year as well. So, and again, it's difficult for forecasters to understand how long these high growth rates will remain. So how sustainable are drivers of economic growth, as you mentioned. And but at the same time, as you see in our forecast for the next year, we are expecting a slight slowing down, moderation of growth, reaching close to 5.5%. So what we think is that downside risks are quite high to the outlook. It includes both domestic but also external geopolitical risks that can at any moment exacerbate exchange rate pressures. It can hit supply chains. Transportation costs can go high. And at the end of the day, it can create high inflationary pressures for Georgia's economy. And it will make the task of the central bank quite difficult to ease monetary policy further. So this is why these downside risks are quite important and sizable, although the growth rate is quite high, but at any moment this risk can materialize and impact growth prospects for Georgia. So this is why, and you see in the central bank's communication as well, the central bank is quite cautious because this downside risk may create inflationary pressures and make it difficult to ease monetary policy further. So yes, it is difficult to right now say that these growth drivers of the past few years are sustainable because they were due to quite exceptional factors. But the good news is that there are some structural changes are happening. So right now the potential growth of Georgia is estimated to be close to 5%. So if these structural reforms bear their fruits and become effective, we will see this potential growth to become higher, so sustainable and more sustainable.
Thank you so much, Lilia, for that clear answer. Does ADB see like Georgia's economy's more dependence on Russian economy? And my question stems from the geopolitical risks that you also mentioned, and also the sanctions list. Probably you have also watched Sky News several reports when they are talking about the possible sanctions evasions because of this automobile industry and the doubts that have been there forever, right? But do you see these trends of Georgia getting more dependent at some point on Russia's economy? And do you weigh this in as one risk that Georgia might have at this point?
Actually, not only for Georgia, for the whole Caucasus Central Asia region, we are clearly mentioning that this is part of the downside risk. That's what is called this geo-economic fragmentation risk, where trade flows are changing, and countries are trying to adapt to new trade routes, etc. So this is creating this geoeconomic fragmentation. And of course, it brings some risk itself, because businesses it will be difficult for businesses to adapt. It will take time, and also it can push transportation costs high. Again, that creates inflationary pressure. Uncertainty in commodity markets can be an issue for the economy, because again, it translates very quickly to domestic inflation when commodity markets, including oil prices, go up, not only due to due to geopolitical challenges in the region, including what we are seeing now in the Middle East. So that can really bring these external shocks to domestic economies of Georgia. And this is part of the downside risk we are considering, not only for Georgia, but for all countries of the Caucasus and Central Asia.
When you mention this domestic policy uncertainty, that's part of this bigger picture, as you say. And what do you mean more specifically under this domestic policy uncertainty?
First of all, that's we think that as I mentioned in the beginning, there were quite important external inflows into the country, and including migrant, FX, tourism, and any reversal of that can impact domestic policy. So this is a source of uncertainty for the Georgian economy. But also, as you know, in the experience of other countries also show that when there are electoral cycles, it creates kind of loss of reform momentum. So that also could create kind of domestic uncertainty in the country and impact investment, business decision, etc. So this is the two sources of domestic policy uncertainty that we consider for the outlook.
Would you say that this IMF standby program, if active, could have mitigated a little bit of those risks that you are looking at as ADB?
Yeah, I think we can say that, because as you see, all risks, most of the risk for the Georgian economy comes from external shocks. So which means to make Georgia's economy resilient and sustainable, the country should strengthen its resilience to mostly these external shocks. So it means creating implementing prudent macroeconomic policies, but also macroeconomic stability, replenished fiscal and reserves of FX reserves buffers can also mitigate those external shocks. But that's really in the short term, medium term. In the long term, of course, to become more resilient, the country needs long-standing structural reforms, but also capitalize on new economic opportunities, including the accession to the European Union. It also means diversifying the economy. For example, you mentioned this trade diversification, regional connectivities is a big opportunity to create this resilience to external shocks that are the main threats, I would say, to the economic growth.
Thank you so much for mentioning structural reforms. I would like to ask you a little bit more in detail towards the end, so that we will show what kind of perspective Georgia might have with these structural reforms to build up this resilience that you rightfully mentioned. You also and ADB also considers elections as a factor for almost like many countries in the region, including U.S., Pakistan. What are some of the findings there for Georgia? Because Georgia is also in less than a month is facing quite big and important elections.
Yeah, that's Georgia is definitely, as all developing countries, also emerging economies, they are all exposed to this normalization of the U.S. monetary policy, because that means a higher risk of capital outflows from developing countries, including Georgia. And it means leading, again, increased inflationary pressures through exchange rate, but also through expectations channels. So it is a risk for all Asia Pacific. Our Asian Development Outlook report has a dedicated chapter analysis on how this U.S. monetary policy normalization can spill over to the domestic economies in the region. And that's one of the global shocks that we should monitor in the coming years. maybe starting 2025. And this is also one of the reasons we are quite cautious about our forecast for the next year, because these high global risks from external side are quite significant for Georgia. Any change in external demand will reflect in exports. Any change in capital outflows will be reflected in Georgian economy. So this is something to monitor for the next few months and to see if we need to adjust our growth forecast for the next year.
What about the domestic business and investment environment? Because these elections might have some spillover effects on that, and it already has that spillover effects on that. Do you evaluate it, how sound this business and investment climate in Georgia might be during and after elections, and is it something, a factor that is considered, especially when driving FDI and these inflows that might not have only this spillover effects from the war, but also like the sustainable inflows of FDI into the country?
As in any country, election cycle really means uncertainty, and that's what we observe in all countries. So as I said, this is part of this domestic policy uncertainty risk that we consider for our outlook and for the forecast. And that creates uncertainty for businesses, investment, households as well, to understand how the reform progress will continue before and after the elections. And that's part of the uncertainty. It has impact on, it may have impact if this risk materialize, they may have impact on growth prospects. But at this stage, as I mentioned, the 2024 growth prospects are quite high. So we don't see any risks regarding policy uncertainty to materialize, because bank lending is still strong. It boosts also domestic investment. We don't see any major impact so far in data that is available.
Also, probably, I would argue that you had much more factors to consider while measuring the outlook, Georgia's economic growth outlook, especially for 2025 and onwards. Have you considered this possible, the possibility of sanctioning Georgia's high officials, or something like these threats that are coming from Georgia's tensions between among its strategic partners? Is it a factor in any way that is also weighing in as a risk in this outlook?
As I mentioned, we consider the broader context of geopolitical risks. So this is, it includes any changes in geopolitical landscape that can impact trade flows, financial flows, migrant flows, tourist flows. Any change that's happening regionally and globally can be reflected in Georgia's economy, because as I mentioned, this is the economy is quite exposed to this risk. And what we consider is that we take it into account as downside risk that at any moment can materialize. But of course, we are monitoring. So far, we don't see those risks to materialize. But this is part of the cautious approach in our forecast, that although growth is quite strong, downside risk remains sizable. This is why we remain quite cautious about our forecast.
Okay, and also about the structural reforms, and I know you don't have much time, so structural reforms, what do you see as like the priorities in those structural reforms, and do you see those 9 preconditions that the EU had for Georgia on its way to the EU membership as some kind of a roadmap that Georgia could stick to in order to build up this resilience and sustainability that we have been considering here during our interview?
Yeah, well, this in this ADO report, we are mostly focusing on short-term impacts, but structural reforms are mostly for the long-term horizons and perspectives. We do mention that, yeah, the structural reform momentum is there, and it is needed for stronger and more inclusive, job-rich economy. It includes many aspects that's also included in ADB Georgia country partnership strategy. We see all these infrastructure bottlenecks, transport, energy sectors, low sectoral productivity growth in agriculture. That is very important area to invest and to implement reforms. Aging population, outward migration, but also, yeah, that could be financial sector, access to finance. So these are really long-term reforms to implement, but these are also important to take advantage of economic opportunities that emerge for now for Georgian economy, including the prospects for joining the European Union.
What about the middle corridor, Lilia? Is it a real, tangible tool for developing further at this point, looking not only to Georgia but looking to the region as well more broadly?
So ADB has very extensive work on this. As you know, our Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Program, CAREC program, is focusing on this middle corridor development. We have several knowledge products, technical assistances in this, including Georgia. So we do see opportunities for, as you mentioned, these tangible opportunities for Georgia, but mostly, of course, medium long term, because this requests investments in infrastructure, in services development. But the opportunities and the potential is there. This increased connectivity that can help unlock potential and new trade routes. We have one upcoming study that will be published soon, and basically it will look at trade flows and transport route opportunities for this middle corridor. Well, without going into details, the main conclusion of that study is that it is a viable option for CAREC countries, including Georgia, to achieve this strategically important goal, which is diversifying from traditional transport routes and also diversifying external and trade partners. So this is what this study will conclude, and also it is based on already existing studies by other development partners. You know, EBRD, OECD, World Bank, they all released studies mentioning this important and tangible opportunity for many countries in this region, including Georgia.
Oh, thank you so much. Looking forward to that study. And my last question: what does ADB at this point see as like how to say, like a bankable infrastructure projects that Georgia might be looking at in this light that we have discussed to make this middle corridor opportunity a more tangible one, not only for Georgia but for the region as well?
Well, the country partnership strategy that we released earlier this year in March is, I would say, increasingly focused on that issue, how ADB can help the Georgian government to make it as a regional champion to increase connectivity, leverage the geographical advantage of Georgia, and make it as a regional gateway connecting the Caucasus and Central Asia to Europe and the rest of the world. This is really the essence of the country partnership strategy of ADB with the Georgian government in the next few years. And it includes many different areas for investment, mostly complex infrastructure, transformative policy reforms. It includes a lot on how the private sector development role can increase, and how to help Georgia to build this multimodal transport network. but it also includes, of course, issues on climate change, disaster resilience. So yeah, this I would say the next few years up to 2028, our country partnership strategy is quite clear that this connectivity and higher infrastructure development is the core of ADB Georgian government partnership.
Thank you so much, Lilian, for this very interesting insights and very interesting interview. And I would like to conclude with the message that you have briefly mentioned during our interview, that EU membership is essential for Georgia. Why does ADB support Georgia's EU membership at this point, and how that relates to Georgia's sustainable economic prosperity, so to say, and that will be your last message from our interview to our viewers and followers.
ADB, here again, I would refer to our country partnership strategy document. It clearly mentions that ADB, Georgia's role as a regional gateway to Europe and the rest of the world is one of the main goals for ADB in the coming years. And that includes also all opportunities emerging, how to diversify transit, trade routes, partners, etc. So these are all bases and important opportunities to support long-term inclusive and resilient growth for Georgia.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for taking our question once again.
Thank you very much for the interesting discussion.
More on the news in the economy this week in our short overview.
The Georgian government presented the initial version of 2025 budget to the parliament. According to the Ministry of Finance, the next year's budget is planned with conservative approach, considering the following macroeconomic aspects. Real economic growth is expected to be 5.5%, with a medium-term prediction of 5.3%. The nominal GDP projection is 97.4 billion lari. The 2025 consolidated budget has a total expenditure of 31.2 billion lari, which completely covers the state's commitments. The budget for healthcare and social security programs has grown by more than 870 million lari. The funding for education and scientific programs has grown by more than 370 million lari. The funding for Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Security Service increased by more than 330 million lari. More than 7 billion lari will be spent on infrastructure development. Agriculture programs receive almost 630 million lari, while environmental protection program receives 240 million lari. Employee salaries in budgeting organizations are expected to rise by 10% by 2025. In 2023, compared to the previous year, the volume of business sector turnover increased by 12.6% and amounted to 204 billion lari, according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia. The increase was observed in the production value of business sector as well. In the 2023, production value equaled 77.9 billion lari, which is 8.5% more year-on-year. In the 2023, large business generated 66.8% of total turnover, while medium-sized business generated 15.3% and 70.9% was generated by small business. Distribution was slightly different in case of total production value. 47.1% was on large business, 24.6% on medium and 29.3% on small businesses. In 2023, total purchase of goods and services carried out by enterprise equaled 109 billion lari year-on-year, while the purchase of goods and services for resale amounted to 71.2 billion lari. Georgian Economy Minister Levan Davitashvili on Thursday said economic progress stably and predictably of country had caught the attention of Saudi Arabia, leading to the discussions about potential investment in various sectors of domestic economy. Davitashvili said projects related to investing in the transport and logistics sector, real estate, hospitality, oil and gas discoveries and energy had been discussed during a meeting with representatives of a Saudi business delegation visiting the country as a part of Georgia's Saudi Arabia Business Forum. Cooperation between two countries in trade and investment is crucial. We have discussed potential investment opportunities in Georgia with specific businesses. I believe making these investments can attract additional foreign investments and create more business opportunities, Davitashvili said. The forum saw participation of about 70 Saudi business people representing trade, logistics, energy, real estate, tourism, transport, IT technologies, medicine, and construction sectors. A memorandum of understanding was also signed between Medical Bridge, Polymer Solution, and Gulf Pharma within the forum, which the Ministry of Economy said was expected to result in investing of over 50 million euro in Georgia. Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze officially unveiled 25 new 70-meter mount buses during a ceremony at Europe Square attended by representatives from Tegeta Holding and MAN Truck and Bus. The initiative is part of city's ongoing transportation policy aimed at completely modernizing its bus fleet and enhancing public transportation services. Mayor Kakakaladze highlighted the significance of this project, announcing that Tbilisi will ultimately acquire a total of 100 of these 80-meter buses, all equipped with advanced safety systems, which will be progressively developed on various routes throughout the city. Plans are also in place to expand the fleet by an additional 100 buses, reaching a total of 200 units by the end of next year. Our goal is to make public transport accessible and efficient so that navigating the city is seamless, Kaladze stated, adding that the city is currently working on infrastructure improvements to introduce more dedicated bus lanes. The new buses, powered by compressed natural gas, can accommodate up to 172 passengers, including 43 seats. They feature a variety of modern amenities for enhanced passenger comfort. Currently, 75 of 80-meter buses are already in operation within the city. The remaining 25 will be integrated into the network gradually, with the complete fleet of 200 buses expected to be fully operational by the end of 2024. The National Wine Agency of Georgia on Thursday said 278,000 tons of grapes had been processed across the country, with revenues reaching 450 million lari and benefiting around 20,000 wine growers. The agency said 276,000 tons of grapes were harvested in Georgia's eastern winemaking region of Kakheti, while 1,630 tons came from the western Racha region and the remainder sourced from various other wine-growing areas across the country. So far, 450 wine companies and wineries have participated in the harvesting process, with the next phase beginning in Sageri municipality. In a bid to promote the sale of harvest, mainly grape quality, and support the stable development of winery industry, the Georgian government announced harvest subsidies. Under this initiative, companies that paid a minimum of 1 lari per kilogram to wine growers for Katsiteli grapes harvested in Kakheti qualified for state subsidies. In Racha, companies that compensated wine growers with at least 8 lari per kilogram for Alexandrouli and Mujuleturi grapes grown in Khwanjgara microzone received a state subsidy of 4 lari. Georgian Minister of Environment Protection and Agriculture Otar Shamugi attended the inauguration of a new citrus processing plant in Kobuleti seaside resort of Achara region. He was joined by First Vice Prime Minister Levan Davitashvili and Achara government chairman Tornike Rizhvadze. Minister Shamugi noted that the new facility is fully equipped with modern technologies and funded through foreign investment. Every year between 10,000 and 15,000 tons of citrus fruits are processed in the region. It's essential to have a modern enterprise that facilitates the receipt and processing of citrus from local farmers. The plant will produce concentrated juice for export, including to the EU market. Projects of this scale are important for our country and its agricultural sector. We welcome these investments and will do our utmost to support investors, he said. The Georgian-Slovak company Beria Orbi Ltd has invested over 3.5 million euro in the venture and plans to expand both its investment and product range.
In September 2024, the consumer price index increased by 0.3% compared to the previous month, while the annual inflation rate amounted to 0.6% according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia Geostat. With regard to the annual core inflation, the prices increased by 0.9%, while the annual core inflation without tobacco amounted to 0.8%. The annual inflation rate was mainly influenced by price changes for the following groups. Transport, the prices for the group increased by 4.3%, contributing to 0.52 percentage points to the overall index. Within the group, the prices increased for transport services 6.1%, operation of personal transport equipment 4.4%, and purchase of vehicles 2.1%. Alcoholic beverages and tobacco, the prices increased by 4.9% with a relevant contribution of 0.34 percentage points to the overall annual inflation rate. The prices increased for both alcoholic beverages 7.2% and tobacco 2%. Restaurants and hotels, the prices went up by 7.5%, contributing 0.25 percentage points to the overall annual inflation rate. The prices in the group increased for accommodation services 11.1% and catering services 6.4%. Communication, the prices decreased by 12.8%, contributing minus 0.48 percentage points to the overall index. How did the business do this week? Natia Taktakishvili will tell us more.
Company Strada Motors, which already unites world-famous brands Fiat, Jeep, Alfa Romeo and Dodge, has become the official dealer of Chevrolet in Georgia. Within the framework of the bilateral agreement, Chevrolet vehicles will become available in Georgia and customers will have access to official car services. The showroom is located in Tbilisi on David Aghmashanabeli LA. The showroom was designed according to the brand's international standards and offers visitors a comfortable environment. According to the company, the showroom features the best-selling Chevrolet models, including the very popular crossovers, the Tracker, the refined sedan Onyx, and the very budget Cobalt. Today, the Chevrolet brand offers customers high-tech, safe, comfortable budget models at a very affordable price. Company Strada Motors was founded in 2010. The company serves up to 1,000 customers every month. TV is a facility that combines a restaurant for 60 persons and offers customers boat trips on the River Tqari. As the founder of TV says, the main idea of their project was to increase the interest of locals towards the River Tqari and popularize this service. The primary goal is almost fulfilled because today TV has quite a lot of customers and most importantly, their number is still growing. Nicholas Korkotadze, the founder of the company, declares that in the next 2 weeks, under the TV brand, the first boat will appear in the Tqari River, which will be able to serve over 30 people. According to him, TV boat will be equipped with modern standards, which will ensure comfortable boat tours for the guests. In the next 2 weeks, the first ship will appear in Tqari. It will accommodate 30 people and will be equipped with the modern system, including air conditioning and heating. The new boat will allow us to host large groups, thus making Tqari even more popular. Along with group tours, it will be possible to organize events on the ship. A half-hour tour on the TV cater boats costs 25 lari. For locals, the price for tourists amounts to 50 lari. TV has been operating for about a year. The investment made for the business development exceeded 1.5 million lari. AgroHub opened another new branch near Sports Palace Saburtalo district. The main concept of the new branch is unchanged, and the goal is to supply each brand with healthy and natural products daily from AgroHub's central enterprise. However, the supermarket has rather different format from the traditional AgroHub hypermarket, as this branch is smaller in size. We're glad that another successful project of AgroHub has been implemented. The company is growing and we are adding branches that are tailored to the customer's demand. Of course, the new branch, like other facilities, will be supplied with various products from our central enterprise. The customer can also meet world-leading brands exclusively in our chain. Georgi Jashiashvili, director of AgroHub, said it's important that AgroHub currently employs more than 2,000 people, of which 150 people are employed in new branch. 2024 turned out special for AgroHub as the company added 2 new facilities in Q1 2025. Another branch will be opened in Saburtalo district, and it's also planned to open another branch in Kutaisi. Luca Polare opened another new branch in Baku last week and currently operates 6 branches in Azerbaijan. The company invested $50,000 to open a new branch. In the current year, we opened several branches of different formats in Baku, including in the leading shopping malls and at the seaside resort Sea Breeze. This year, we still have another news in Baku, which we will announce soon, said the general director of the company, Tinati Kobejishvili. The brand went beyond the borders of Georgia in the summer of 2023 and opened its first branch in August in Baku. The branches and production in Azerbaijan are fully managed by Georgian management. However, both service and production departments are staffed with local population. Luca Polare is an ice cream cafe chain that offers its customers about 100 types of ice cream, exclusive coffee, lunch, and various sweets. The brand has been operating for 16 years and it's represented in 5 cities across Georgia, 16 branches in Tbilisi, 6 in Batumi, 1 in Kobuleti, Kutaisi, and 6 branches in Baku, Azerbaijan. KFC Georgia continues to expand its restaurant chain. The company opened its new facility on Natakhtari Highway. The new branch of KFC is designed for up to 100 guests. Takeaway service is also available at the restaurant. The restaurant of KFC fully comply with European and international standards. KFC restaurant chain has been operating in Georgia since 2014. The company continues to expand and create additional jobs every year. KFC is an American fast food restaurant chain which is famous for its legendary secret recipe for cooking chicken. It was founded in 1930 in the USA. The brand soon became popular and not only in America but all over the world. Erikli Loladze, founder of Loladze Family Winery, told BMDG that it's planned to add 2 types of sparkling wine to its production range from the new year. According to him, the work on sparkling wine is in active mode and one of them will be pink sparkling wine. We are planning to put this sparkling wine on sale for the new year. We will probably have 2 types of sparkling wine, of which one will be a pink sparkling wine, while the second sparkling wine is being processed, and due to the technical delays it may take some time. We plan to export our products to Australia from August, where we have signed 300 bottles. All the bureaucracy is solved from our side. The company itself has logistical details to solve. Our wine is sold in Germany. Currently are looking for new markets because our production capacity is not high, and at this stage the local market fully absorbs our resources. Loladze notes, according to the founder of Loladze Family Winery, the company added 2 new facilities this year, namely 1 store and 1 restaurant. In addition, Loladze also talks about the harvest and notes that this year, compared to the other years, there is no shortage of grapes and it can be said that there is surplus harvest. Natalia Partshaladze, the founder of Georgian tea brand Kona, enjoys the tea plantation rehabilitation program and notes that the production of high-quality raw materials in the country is increasing year on year, but the market demand is not high. The founder of Kona declares that it's difficult to sell Georgian tea in the local market, including chain markets. According to her, the reputation of Georgian tea has disappeared and the market is saturated with imported products. So before exporting, companies should take care of increasing awareness within the country. Tea production volume has increased with the state efforts, but the sales didn't. Therefore, I think that we start exporting, we should increase the awareness of Georgian tea in our own country. Georgian tea did not have a good reputation even though we produced quality tea during Soviet Union, which went to the high-ranking officials, and they were not interested in the quality of mass production. That's why we should start a new history of Georgian tea and not continue the old one, says the founder of Kona. Partshaladze also talks about the approach of HoReCa sector, noting that they don't have locally produced tea into the chain. According to her, all restaurants offer their goods greenfield tea instead of Georgian one. According to Georgia, tea exports from Georgia have increased. In 8 months 2024, Georgia exported 800 tons of tea worth $1.1 million USD. Irakli Loladze, the founder of Mouse Melters, a local chocolate manufacturer, told BMDG that cocoa price increased by 50% for the company compared to the previous year due to the shortage in the market. According to him, the company imports cocoa from Belgium. There were some challenges in our direction of purchasing cocoa because the purchase prices increased by 30% compared to the previous year. Price surge made up 100% compared to 2019. At this stage, due to the fact that we had reserves, we have maintained the prices. However, in the next 2 months, we might have some changes in the direction of prices. We make exports from Belgium. Probably from the beginning of next year, the prices of raw materials may return to the same level and decrease, Loladze said. The chocolate workshop is located near the city of Tskheta. The founders of the company invested 60,000 lari in the production. At this stage, the enterprise employs 7 people.
And that's all for today. We'll meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. Sharp. But before that, please follow us on BM.G for more news and insights on business and economics in Georgia, in the region, and beyond.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.